Our passage this morning is 1 Kings chapter 8, and uh, it brings up the question, do you pray toward Jerusalem? So here, King Solomon has had built the temple in Jerusalem. And starting in verse 1, Then Solomon assembled the elders of Israel, that's the older men of Israel, it's not a religious title, and all the heads of the tribes, the leaders of the fathers' houses of the people of Israel, before King Solomon in Jerusalem, to bring up the ark of the covenant of the Creator out of the city of David, which is Zion, or Zion in Hebrew. So here, for all the people that are anti-Zionist, this defines Zion for you. It's the city of David. And all the men of Israel assembled to King Solomon at the feast in the month of Ethanim, which is the 7th month. And all the elders of Israel came, and the priests took up the ark. And they brought up the ark of the Creator, the tent of meeting, and all the holy vessels or containers that were in the tent. The priests and the Levites brought them up. And King Solomon and all the congregation of Israel who had assembled before him were with him before the ark, sacrificing so many sheep and oxen that they could not be counted or numbered. Although later in the chapter a number is going to be given, maybe not for... Anyway. So, verse 6, Then the priests brought the ark of the covenant of the Creator to its place in the inner sanctuary of the house, in the most holy place underneath the wings of the cherubim, or the cheruvim in Hebrew. For the cherubim spread out their wings over the place of the ark, so that the cherubim made a covering above the ark and its poles. And the poles were so long that the ends of the poles were seen from the holy place before the inner sanctuary, but they could not be seen from outside, and they are there to this day. So apparently, as with most things written, this was written at some point after the events described here. There was nothing in the ark except the 2 tables of stone which Moses put there at Horeb, where the Creator made a covenant with the people of Israel when they came out of the land of Egypt. And when the priests came out of the holy place, a cloud filled the house of the Creator. So that word house there, sometimes it's translated temple, but in Hebrew the word is just house, and it's the context that tells you whose house it is. And from that it's deduced that it's a temple. A temple doesn't necessarily mean it belongs to the biblical deity. A temple could belong to some other deity, right? But in the Hebrew, it's not specific. It just says house, and it's from the context that we know that it's the house belonging to the Creator. When the priest came out of the holy place, a cloud filled the house of the Creator, so that the priest could not stand to minister or serve because of the cloud, for the glory of the Creator filled the house of the Creator. Then Solomon said, The Lord has set the sun in the heavens, but has said that he would dwell in thick darkness. I have built you an exalted house, a place for you to dwell in forever. So there he's speaking directly to the Creator. Then the king faced about, did an about face, and blessed all the assembly of Israel, while all the assembly of Israel stood. And he said, Blessed be the Creator, the God of Israel, who with his hand has fulfilled what he promised with his mouth to David my father, saying, Since the day that I brought my people Israel out of Egypt, I chose no city in all the tribes of Israel in which to build a house, that my name might be there. So this lets us know that in all the places where it talks about the place where the Creator would place his name, this is that place. Jerusalem, the Temple Mount. But I chose David to be over my people Israel. Now it was in the heart of David my father to build a house for the name of the Creator, the deity of Israel. But the Creator said to David my father, Whereas it was in your heart to build a house for my name, you did well that it was in your heart. Nevertheless you shall not build the house, but your son who shall be born to you shall build the house for my name. And there's a reason for that, but we're not covering that here. Now the Creator has fulfilled his promise which he made, for I have risen in the place of David my father, and sit on the throne of Israel, as the Creator promised. And I have built the house for the name of the Creator, the God of Israel. And there I have provided a place for the ark, in which is the covenant of the Creator which he made with our fathers when he brought them out of the land of Egypt. Then Solomon stood before the altar of the Creator in the presence of all the assembly of Israel, and spread forth his hands towards heaven, and said, O Creator, God of Israel, there is no God like you, in heaven above or on earth beneath, keeping covenant and showing steadfast love, or chesed, grace, mercy, to your servants who walk before you with all their heart, who has kept with your servant David my father, what you did declare to him. Yes, you did speak with your mouth, and with your hand has fulfilled it this day. Now therefore, O Creator, God of Israel, keep with your servant David my father what you had promised him, saying, There shall never fail you a man before me to sit upon the throne of Israel, if only your sons take heed to their way to walk before me as you have walked before me. Now therefore, O God of Israel, let your word be confirmed which you have spoken to your servant David my father. But will God indeed dwell on the earth? Behold, heaven and the highest heaven cannot contain you, how much less this house which I have built. Yet have regard to the prayer of your servant, and to his supplication, O Creator my God, hearkening to the cry and to the prayer which your servant prays before you this day, that your eyes may be open night and day toward this house, the place of which you have said, My name shall be there, that you may hearken or pay attention to the prayer which your servant offers towards this place. And hearken to the supplication of your servant and of your people Israel when they pray toward this place. Yes, here in heaven, your dwelling place, and when you hear, forgive. So, no human sacrifice necessary. If a man sins against his neighbor and is made to take an oath, and comes and swears his oath before your altar in this house, then hear in heaven and act and judge your servants, condemning the guilty by bringing his conduct upon his own head, and vindicating the righteous by rewarding him according to his righteousness. Again, righteous people doing righteousness without the need for a human sacrifice. When your people Israel are defeated before the enemy because they have sinned against you, if they turn again to you and acknowledge your name and pray and make supplication to you in this house, then hear in heaven and forgive the sin of your people Israel, and bring them again to the land which thou gavest their fathers. So this is describing a time when Israel is being corporately punished by being exiled to non-Jewish lands, However, if they pray towards Jerusalem and seek forgiveness, he will forgive them and bring them again to the land which he gave to their fathers, and all without a human sacrifice. When heaven is shut up and there is no rain because they have sinned against you, if they pray toward this place and acknowledge your name and turn from their sin, when you afflict them, then hear in heaven and forgive the sin of your servants, your people Israel, when you teach them the good way in which they should walk, and grant rain upon your land, which you have given to your people as an inheritance. So the land is given to the children of Israel as an inheritance. If there is famine in the land, if there is pestilence or blight or mildew or locust or caterpillar, if their enemy besieges them in any of their cities, whatever plague, whatever sickness there is, whatever prayer, whatever supplication is made by any man or by all thy people Israel, so it seems to be describing an individual Israelite or by all of Israel, each knowing the affliction of his own heart and stretching out his hands toward this house, then hear in heaven your dwelling place and forgive and act, and render to each whose heart you know, according to all his ways, for you only know the hearts of all the children of men, that they may fear all the days that they live in the land which you gave to our fathers. Now, if you're not Jewish, this is where you really need to sit up and pay attention. Likewise, when a foreigner who is not of your people Israel comes from a far country for your name's sake, for they shall hear of your great name and your mighty hand and of your outstretched arm, when he comes and prays toward this house, hear in heaven your dwelling place, and do according to all for which the foreigner calls to thee, in order that all the peoples of the earth may know your name and fear thee, as do your people Israel, and that they may know that this house which I have built is called by your name. And this was the situation in the first century before the Romans invented the Christian myth, which was an inoculation of non-Jews against Judaism, and before Muhammad cooked up the Quran, which was an inoculation of primarily Arabs at the time, I guess, against Judaism also. And how do we know this? Well, Christianity is kind of anti-temple because they say Jesus is their temple, and they don't really see any importance to the centrality of Jerusalem, or that the heavens really meet the earth there in Jerusalem. Of course, you've got some that are a little more aware of this, but nevertheless it's still hybridized along with your typical Christian doctrine. And then you've got Islam, which teaches people to pray towards Mecca, turning their back toward Jerusalem. So these are two religions that have inoculated non-Jews against the message of the Bible, so that they really don't pay the sort of respect described here to Jerusalem, the place where the Creator has put his name. So they cut themselves off from the blessings described here that they could procure for themselves by praying toward Jerusalem, and even more by making a pilgrimage to Jerusalem. Then it continues, if your people go out to battle against their enemy by whatever way you shall send them, and they pray to the Creator toward the city which thou hast chosen and the house which I have built for your name, then hear in heaven their prayer and their supplication and maintain their cause. If they sin against you, for there is no man who does not sin, and you are angry with them, and do give them to an enemy, so that they are carried away captive to the land of the enemy, far off or near, yet if they lay it to heart in the land to which they have been carried captive, and repent, and make supplication to thee in the land of their captors, saying, we have sinned and have acted perversely and wickedly, if they repent with all their mind and with all their heart in the land of their enemies who carried them captive, and pray to you toward their land which you gave to their fathers, the city which you have chosen, and the house which I have built for your name, then hear in heaven, your dwelling place, their prayer and their supplication, and maintain their cause, and forgive your people who have sinned against you, and all their transgressions which they have committed against you, and grant them compassion in the sight of those who carried them captive, that they may have compassion on them, for they are your people and thy heritage. So, whereas the land is the inheritance of the children of Israel are the inheritance of the Creator. For they are your people and your heritage, which you did bring out of Egypt from the midst of the iron furnace. Let your eyes be open to the supplication of your servant, and to the supplication of your people Israel, giving ear to them whenever they call to thee. For you did separate them from among all the peoples of the earth to be your heritage, as you did declare through Moses your servant, when you did bring our fathers out of Egypt, O Lord Creator. So, there are some who try to teach that, like Israel, in its departure from the Creator, they were like divorced and forever put away by the Creator. But that's not what the Hebrew Tanakh teaches. If anything, it's more like sleeping on the couch for a while, or the wife going to stay at the mother-in-law's house for a few days. It's not the end of the marriage. Now, as Solomon finished offering all this prayer and supplication to the Creator, he arose from before the altar of the Creator, where he had knelt with hands outstretched toward heaven, and he stood and blessed all the assembly of Israel with a loud voice, saying, Blessed be the Creator who has given rest to his people Israel, according to all that he promised. Not one word has failed of all his good promise, which he uttered by Moses his servant. So, if that is true, and if, as some people believe, that there are prophecies in the law of Moses about a certain Nazarene, that he would be the Messiah, then how is it that not one word has failed of all of the Creator's good promises at this point in time? You would expect that those messianic promises that are supposedly there about the man from Nazarene would be fulfilled at this point, given what King Solomon says. But the reality is that there's no messianic prophecies there about Yoshki, Jesus. It's a concoction whipped up by the Christian community. And that's why the Jewish community corporately has never embraced Jesus as the Messiah, because there are lots of passages that are just the imaginings of idolatrous non-Jews. The way they look at these passages and see in Jesus the fulfillment of them as just, it's part of their vain idolatrous imaginings. And Jews know their scriptures better than Gentiles do, inasmuch as they can read them when they're elementary school age in the original language, and non-Jews can't. And no amount of silly supposed spirit gives non-Jews any kind of gift that helps them to agree with one another about what the truth is, or helps them to see the future. It's a confusing Babylon, Christianity. Does the Creator wink at the ignorance of Gentiles who see in Christianity the conduit for a relationship with the Creator? That's for him to answer. Does he see in Islam the same thing? Again, that's for him to answer. I can't answer that question. All I can tell you is that neither Christianity nor Islam conform to the truth, the biblical truth of the Hebrew Tanakh. Now, there are truths that may not be covered in the Hebrew Tanakh, but like the verse says, the secret things belong to the Creator. The revealed things belong to the children of Israel and their children forever. And it's by learning from the children of Israel that we learn about those revealed things. So, let's see. The Creator, our God, be with us as he was with our fathers. May he not leave us or forsake us, that he may incline our hearts to him, to walk in all his ways, and to keep his commandments, his statutes, and his ordinances, which he commanded our fathers. It's a real kind of cynical person who believes that the Creator gave all of these commandments, instructions, all of this counsel and advice through his servant Moses, and then inspired the prophets to exhort the people of Israel to obey these commandments when they started going astray, only for a false messianic pretender to come along later and tell them that no, they don't have to do any of those things anymore. And really that's kind of part and parcel excuse me, of the Pauline mission, of the religious mission of the Apostle Paul. There's disagreement amongst scholars as to whether Paul taught the same religion that Jesus did, and whether Jesus taught the same kind of anomian, that is without Torah, religion that Paul did. Whatever the case, when a person goes back and reads the Hebrew Tanakh in chronological order, and does not let anything that comes later contradict what comes before, very quickly they will realize that Christianity is, and the Gospels, so-called, the good news accounts, so-called, are an attack on Judaism, not a fulfillment of the law of Moses, but an attack on the Torah and on the children of Israel. Because it's a Gentile counterfeit. It consoles non-Jews, that they don't really need to listen to those Jewish people, and that the Creator didn't really appoint them to fulfill a mission of being a light to the nations, to the Goyim, the Gentiles, the people of the world. And instead they turn their hearts to gods that the children of Israel had never known, and to laws that the children of Israel had never heard of. So it's really a replacement of Roman law with replacement of Jewish law with Roman law, and later whatever law is found in whatever land non-Jews find themselves in. So it doesn't really matter what that law is or what it teaches. Christians, according to the Christian scriptures, are supposed to obey those laws, but they should never pay any attention to Jewish law. And that's another evidence that the Christian message is an inoculation against the real Bible. So, let these words of mine, wherewith I have made supplication before the Creator, be near to the Creator our God day and night, and may He maintain the cause of His servant and the cause of His people Israel as each day requires, that all the peoples of the earth may know that the Creator is God, there is no other. And that name in capital L-O-R-D, that's the Tetragrammaton, the Yud, He, Vav, He, the sacred, I've often heard it called the ineffable, or not to be spoken lightly, sacred personal name of the Creator. So there the personal name of the Creator is used, and then it says there is no other. So in other words, there is no Jesus to be worshipped instead of that Creator. It doesn't matter if you say that He's His son, or that He's His brother, or any relation thereto, His deputy. It doesn't matter. It says there is no other. Let your heart therefore be wholly true to the Creator our God, walking in His statutes and keeping His commandments as at this day. Then the king and all Israel with him offered sacrifice before the Lord. Oh, let's go back to that scenario where when the people of Israel are being admonished and disciplined by the Creator, by being held in captivity, or just residing or being exiled to non-Jewish lands instead of the land that they inherited from the Creator, they can pray toward Israel, and they can procure for themselves forgiveness, even though there are no sacrifices being made in the temple at that time, because there'd be no functioning priesthood, and it's debatable, or it's doubtful that the temple would be standing in that scenario, because we see how much non-Jews who either have been inoculated against the Jewish people and against the Torah and against the temple by non-Jewish religion, and maybe not even that, because it could just be the consuming fire of a conquering army that would just destroy a building that they don't value. So don't think that, oh, it's because sacrifices are being done in the temple still that Israel is able to procure forgiveness for themselves in a foreign land while they're exiled. It doesn't say that. Then the king and all Israel with him offered sacrifice before the Creator. Solomon offered as peace offerings to the Creator 22,000 oxen and 120,000 sheep. So the king and all the people of Israel dedicated the house of the Creator. The same day the king consecrated the middle of the court that was before the house of the Creator, for there he offered the burnt offering and the cereal offering and the fat pieces of the peace offerings, because the bronze altar that was before the Creator was too small to receive the burnt offering and the cereal offering and the fat pieces of the peace offerings. So Solomon held the feast at that time, and all Israel with him, a great assembly, from the entrance of Hamath to the brook of Egypt, before the Creator our God 7 days. On the 8th day he sent the people away, and they blessed the king, and went to their homes joyful and glad of heart for all the goodness that the Creator had shown to his servant David and to Israel his people. What? Joy and gladness under the law of Moses? Say it isn't so. So this brings us back to the question, do you pray toward Jerusalem? And if not, are you doing yourself a disservice by cutting yourself off from that channel or conduit of blessing that's described here in 1 Kings chapter 8 and also I believe in 2 Chronicles? So something to consider.